All right, let's move on to the other big story that we are tracking. And this one, if you haven't seen, you're clearly living under a rock. So what happened? Let me describe a scene for you. Crowds on their feet, flags flying, and in the middle, one woman, eyes glistering, bat lifted high. That woman is the one I'm talking about. Overnight, Jemima Rodrigues has become a name that every Indian now knows. A stunning 127 not out against Australia, the unbeaten chase that took India into the World Cup final. It was the kind of performance that turns players into legends, really. Her strokes were flawless, her temperament unshakable. But what no one saw that night was that she had been fighting something within. Because just hours later, in that press conference that you see her at, Jemimah actually spoke about not just her shots and the stats, but the state of her mind. She said, and I quote, we'll play that out also for you, "I cried every day this tournament. I was anxious. I wasn't okay." In that moment, the scoreboard faded away when she said that. There was a young woman who had carried more than just pressure. She had carried pain, self-doubt, and the weight of expectation. She spoke of fear, of sleepless nights, of calling her mother just to feel grounded again, and how faith, family, and teammates actually helped her steady herself one day, 1 hour at a time. That honesty has really hit home with Indians, and in fact with sportsmen across. Fans, former players, even celebrities, all moved, all listening. Because when she cried in that press conference, a lot of people watching cried with her. In a world that celebrates strength, Jemimah actually showed that vulnerability is strength too. She remained, sort of calm in that moment, but decided to be vulnerable in front of the camera to send out a larger message. She reminded everyone that winning isn't always about runs and trophies. Sometimes it's about holding your nerve when your mind feels like it's giving away. She's a hero with a bat, without one as well, and the voice that has made silence around mental health just a little bit quieter. Our expert, Dr. Shyam Bhatt, is with us. He's a psychiatrist, founder of Integral Self-Therapy and chairman of the Live, Love, Laugh Foundation. Thank you so much for being with us, Dr. Shyam. I have to say, when we were listening to it, I know of people who were crying. When my producer was cutting and chopping this bite right to be put on the show, she was crying. She had tears. This message has hit home like how? But my question to you is this. We don't see a lot of sportsmen speak about their mental health challenges, not in India at least. We have one Simone Biles maybe, we have one Abhinav Bindra maybe, evolved and, we've seen those comments come in. But do you think today we are better off than we were, say, a decade ago in conversations on mental health? Let's start there.
Sonal, thank you for discussing this. This is because to me this moment was not just about sports. It was larger than sports. It was a moment where I think Jemimah showed she not just played amazingly, but when she spoke so honestly, truthfully, courageously, and authentically, I think she actually redefined what strength actually means. That you can actually be vulnerable, or rather you should be in touch with your feelings. A certain vulnerability is required in order actually to be strong. I think definitely the conversations have become much more open, especially the younger generation, and I think Jemimah represents the new generation of sports people who know that in order to be strong, it's not about the old model of strength, which maybe seemed a little like you got to suppress your feelings. So I think, she kind of represents the new generation, the changing conversation in our country as well, where we are far more open, thankfully, to talking about what is really one of the most important aspects of health, which is mental health, and one of the most important aspects of high performance, whether it's in business or sports or life.
Yeah, I think, why her story has hit home so much is also because she talks about, she's not out of it just yet, right? She's talking about how she's still anxious. She's saying, I'm still crying every day, every tournament, like every match. It's still happening, but I decided to, it just happened that I managed to shine out. I managed to play my best. Even on the field, she goes on to, kiss away thank yous to, those in the box, at least, her team players, her family, and all of them. Isn't that the challenge? For far long, we have treated mental health as an issue that has to be catered to. We haven't spoken about people who are still dealing with it, who are still living with it, who say that it is okay. And perhaps sometimes, even when you're dropped, you can come back and you can outshine.
Yeah, I mean, she's demonstrating that, look, the conversation is the whole gamut from what stress that everyone sort of has to go through in life. I think everyone goes through certain amounts of stress, to the idea that when you have a mental health condition like depression, anxiety, to be open about it, to seek help, to seek support, to the idea of resilience, which means the ability to bend but not break, and so this conversation is as much about depression, anxiety, and stress as it is about the fact that she is crying. She said, I'm anxious, but she went out there, played for our country, and played so amazingly well that that's inspirational. Because I think a lot of people actually assume that to be strong means not to have these feelings. And so when she comes out and says, look, this is what strength can look like, strength does not. And actually, true strength is the embracing of sides of us that otherwise people are trying so hard to push away. The kind of energy that you need to push away these feelings makes life harder than accepting that there are certain feelings, knowing that there's no shame in it, that is part of being human. And now she's shown that it's also part of being a really strong, inspirational figure.
Yeah.
So kudos to her, not just for the game, but also for really speaking so honestly
But Dr.
about.
Shyam, how
Yeah.
hard it is still for people in public
Mhm.
life to come out and speak about it? I think Deepika Padukone was clearly the first to
Right.
have, sort of come
Yeah.
out and said that, listen, this happens, and it's important to speak about it. We can't be brushing it under the carpet. Now we have Rodrigues. We have two women actually come out and speak about mental health before any of the other superheroes or superstars, both in Bollywood or cricket, could speak about it. Is that telling us something about the state of mental health for men, at least, in the country?
That's a very astute question and an astute observation, I think, because what Jemima showed us and Deepika had also displayed, and I think women in general, we know that women in general, one of their greatest strengths is their ability to seek support and to share vulnerability when they're feeling vulnerable. Too many men have the impression that strength is either an impression or sometimes it's a social position they find themselves in, where they may either not be aware of their feelings, feel they don't have the space for that vulnerability, it doesn't fit into the role or definition of being a man. And studies show that that's causing increased suicide rates in men, increased mortality in men from heart disease and all of these things, which basically a lot of it is to do with this emotional energy being held in. So I think women are role modeling what we all need, male or female, in this new world, which is, no matter, you may be playing at the highest levels, or you may be doing what's also very difficult, which is making a living, paying the bills, taking care of family. That's also very stressful. And I think what they're showing us is it's okay to feel this way. It's normal to feel this way. If you are feeling something, reach out, because there was a lot of things she spoke about which to me underlined some of the key characteristics of resilience.
Right. My last question, really, Dr. Shyam, for those watching, and I think that's what the whole message Rodrigues had was as well, that it's okay, express. But what I'm hearing from you is that perhaps women who are conventionally said to have a higher EQ find it easier to express. Because now role models are there. You have a Deepika Padukone, you have others who are saying, it's okay to feel this way. You have an Oprah who goes on a global platform to say that, we've had issues, I've had issues, and this is how I deal with it. But there is still a sort of veil behind which men don't want to come out and feel perhaps soft. They still want to feel strong. Is that something that we want to fight next in our mental health battle and journey?
Yeah, I don't think they don't want to come out as much as there isn't as much space, I feel, in our society. We need to create more space where it's acceptable for men to reach out, to connect, to share stories of vulnerability, and which they do, by the way. In my practice, I see men and women alike. And so I know that behind the stoic nature of many people, men and women, again, I don't want this to be a gendered
But do you
discussion.
think? But do you think they pay a price? People who come out and speak about mental health issues on LinkedIn or other places, we still live in a world where organizations would see them differently, where they will pay a price for being soft or, like I said, being vulnerable.
Yeah, look, I think firstly, I think the good news is organizations have realized and have changed, and we have moved, in my view, we are moving from a more masculine command and control environment in organizations to organizations where we know that connection, affiliation, collaboration, these are important qualities. Being an empathic leader has now become really a key quality in, managing in kind of having your team do well. So I think what we are seeing is what is conventionally been seen as women's strength, which is affiliation, connection, empathy, vulnerability, is actually a key strength in many domains today. And men have to and are adapting. I think the men are adapting, by the way. The good news is I see a lot more men also engaged in the conversation. Again, see, I think it's not just a gender thing. I think culturally also, we have been pretty stoic, and nothing wrong with that. That's a beautiful thing. But I think that in the past, we had so much, life was different in that the amount of stress people felt was far less. Now, today, as there's so much fragmentation and stress.
Less or different, I don't know. I think it was always there. It was just in a different form.
Well, the kind of stress you have today is the stress of ambiguity, uncertainty, and unparalleled ambition, which is and comparison, which is a different kind of stress that, unfortunately, say, deprivation brought about in the past. That is stress. I'm not denying that. But, to me, the stress of, for example, if you are hungry at that Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you know what you need. You need food. As we evolve and we look for self-actualization,
That's true.
that's a harder question. That's what I'm saying as a country we are getting to, or people at the highest levels are really looking at.
Dr. Shyam, this is a fascinating topic, and I have to say that kudos to people like you, and today, but I have to say kudos to Rodrigues for having spoken the way she spoke, for having played the way she played, and for having really connected that chord with each and every one who has perhaps in some form of life, in some stage of life, felt what she had felt. Thank you so much for joining us, and here's wishing her all the best for future games as well. That's all we could pack in today's edition of 5 Live. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a good weekend. We'll see you again on Monday. Bye-bye for now.